What's up, y'all? Mark Stunner. Today we're going over UFC 4. First, we're going to start with the top 5 things. We're going to get started with Jeff Blattnett explaining the octagon. It is 715 square feet and it is 32 feet across. He wrestled. He had Olympic medals or a Olympic medal, and it's good to hear from somebody that knows what they're talking about. Number 2, Milton Bowen came out with gloves. They looked well put together, probably better than anything the UFC has done in 300 plus events. He managed to come up with it and make it work. He's skilled at making gloves, was not very skilled at fighting. Number 3, Dan Severn makes his debut. We get the best mustache to date. Dan Severn was fighting a guy that had 2 state wrestling championships and did Muay Thai. That guy was Anthony Mackius. Anthony did the first oblique kick in UFC history. None of that mattered. Dan Severn did more suplexes than WWE and laid them down. Number 4, the love of the game. Keith Hackney has a heating and air company. Imagine you go outside hearing your obnoxious neighbor yell about the price of a unit just to get head kicked by Keith Hackney. Hackney versus Royce Gracie was a really good fight. Gracie pulled guard. That is the first time someone's pulled guard in the UFC. You hate to see it because what it ends up becoming in the game of jiu-jitsu. However, at the time it's revolutionary to be like, wow, you can do damage off your back. People took that and ran with it, and they probably ran way too far. If you can do it and it works, do what you gotta do. But game of jiu-jitsu versus being able to do it in MMA, that's 2 different things. If you can pull your back and hurt somebody when they can swing, that's huge. But if you can do it and then just crawl, you gaming the system, and that ain't very practical. Hackney also gave Gracie a run for his money. Chemo did it in his last fight, and now Hackney's doing it. I feel like at this point they done showed that a smaller Gracie can hold his own, and now they should bring out the best one just to see the best of like the peak of what jiu-jitsu can be. My most favorite thing about UFC 4 is it's the most well put together event. The flow is good, nothing seems rushed, but it's not too slow with everybody just laying on top of each other. It's still not my favorite out of the 4 events. UFC 3 is definitely my favorite because Big John Stud's in it. Then I'm gonna say 4, then 1, then 2. Top 5 things I dislike. You can steal the recipe, but you can't steal the sauce. Joe Sun cannot go out there and make Joe Sun dough. 5'4" at 235 is a crazy build though. He's spreading the gospel, you gotta love it, but he seemed more about himself about it instead of actually spreading the message. He gets out there to the fight, then proceeds to hold a headlock for about a minute and a half. Then he takes shots to the goober, just fire. At first, Joe Sun Doe was going to be my dislike. However, shots to the goober is my new dislike. Because it's like, if you're going to allow stuff like that, you might as well let them bite each other. That's probably not good for TV or nothing, but neither is nut shot. So you look at it and you're like, that ain't really what the sport's about. And also, has no one thought to wear a cup up to this point? But then, after doing my research, Joe Sun essayed somebody back in the 1990. He is now back as on my list as the dislike. It went from Joe Sun to nut shots back to Joe Sun. Number 2, Melton Brown was throwing shots off his back. I hate that. This is the first time I get to address it as far as seeing it and be able to go on a tangent about it. I hate when fighters just do little couple inches shots just to score to the side when it's doing no damage. It makes even less sense whenever there's no judges, there's no score, it just goes so someone taps or gets knocked out. So for there to be nothing on the line and you still pull like just not smart shots that just don't do anything. I get setups with jabs, but on the ground there's not much you can do off a couple inches of rotation. Number 3, Steve Jim talking about, oh, I'm here to defend as being the ultimate fighter. You was a late replacement and won 1 fight. A lot of people has won 1 fight. For you to get lucky enough to get in there, that's one thing. So here in UFC 4, he got a win. He got hurt in that during his win, so he had to pull out for the next fight. The 4th thing I dislike, this is an event where you see like there really needs to be weight classes. Dan Severn bulldogs anybody and everybody, even Gracie. Gracie's more technical, so he gets him, but having to watch him just stand on top of him and not know exactly how to finish it just because he's so much stronger than him, it's kind of cool, but it's more like a fight circus type thing where it's like, oh wow, that's crazy, and you don't want to build around that. You see him like the second guy he fought, Marcus Bossett. He was really good at striking, and he had some nice setups, but the only thing about that, Dan Severn just big boyed him the whole time, just straight aggression got him all the way to the final. During the Gracie fight, it'd have been cool to see either both of them 190 or both of them 260. You could tell Gracie was better just off getting the win. However, Dan Severn is a force to be reckoned with. The big 260, that's a bad boy. Dan Severn versus Gracie is also the reason we need rounds. Joe Rogan will have you thinking that you need to start the fight where it ends, the round ends, but I don't think that'll that'll ever happen for reasons like Jalton Almeida versus Derek Lewis. The UFC don't want to see somebody lay on top of you just because you got good control. They always want to give somebody a striking chance, and let's be honest, they like knockouts more than they like submissions. So I don't think that'll ever change, but you see the need for them to start standing back up, because if UFC 4 main event was on in today, they definitely would have been stood up a couple minutes in for stalling. Let's get to the funny notes. They really brought out Ron the Black Dragon Von Cleef as a 50-year-old with a high top fade, gray high top fade, and 10 black belts. He got pushed into the octagon. He almost lost his step. That's minus 1,000 aura. That's bad for business. You get out there, you get pushy over here, kind of wobble like that. You look over and there's Royce Gracie and his whole family run out. Hey, bro, I'm done. Get him out of here. The G-Man still doing his double last names. When will he learn? Keith Hackney versus Royce Gracie. Looks like he's running in place, not knowing what to do, which stance to hold. Looks like Royce Gracie snuck a kiss in on his coach at the end. A little bit before that, he kissed one of them on the cheek, and that's kind of a culture thing. Some of my Muslim partners, they kiss on the cheek, whatever. That's kind of where you're from, what you do. However, you kissing somebody on the lips, that's got to be addressed. Royce Gracie walked so Duplessis could run. Let's get to the facts. They had prelim fights to determine who the alternates would be. I think that's a great idea, because getting to win with only your fight coming in the final, that's kind of crazy. There's the argument for, is it better to fight early and have time to rest? But also, what if it's an adrenaline dump? You get in there, you're all fired up, and then you're back there, you probably want to take a nap or something. Double-edged sword for sure. One of the alternates ended up getting to fight. And Dan Severn keeping control over Royce Gracie is probably where the little-known fact that the worst matchup for a BJJ practitioner is a good wrestler, just keeping control. And it's different than a BJJ comp, because if you don't know any submissions, like, control time can only get you so much. But in MMA, when you can do ground and pound, wrestling over BJJ is a common argument. But that's it. Thank you for watching UFC 4. My best and worst things about it. We got UFC 5 on the way.